Super Check-in users. This video is a tutorial about a new feature added to the page backlog on Super Check-in. If you scroll down on the backlog page, you will see that now you have a new option to upload a CSV file to do batch check-ins, meaning to do multiple check-ins at once based on data in a spreadsheet. CSV stands for comma separated value, but that's not that important. What type of file do we need? It's a file that essentially contains three things. You need a date and time, so you need the date as in year, then the month, then a day, then a T in between, and then the hour in the local time at your supercharger. Then you can optionally add a comment. For example, if you found the toilets at a particular supercharger nice, or if if you have a really good restaurant hint or any other hint similar to how you can do a normal check-in. And then the last thing we need is the site ID. And the site ID is kind of tricky to get because it's an ID used in supercharge.info, which is the database we use for the supercharger data. But I'm going to give you a straight up simple approach to follow based on the export that you can make from the Tesla site. So this will all become much clearer very, very soon. So let's start with the beginning. Let's go to the Tesla website where lately, I mean this is pretty recently added, that when you're logged in and if you go to charging, then you actually have an option to download your the data of your supercharging sessions as a CSV or as a spreadsheet file. It's this button on the right, and then you get a file that looks like this. So it has the data that we're interested in. It has the charge, the moment we started charging, and it has location names. So it has location names, so it does not have that ID just yet that we need. But basically these two columns of that export we need in order to build the CSV file that we will then upload to Super Check-in. So these two columns you will need to copy to a Google Sheets file. The Google Sheets file, in the YouTube video, I will have a link to this so you have access there. Is that in this Google Sheets file, I have these two columns. I have my the dates and the times of when I started charging, and then I have the name, the longer name of the location. What we need then is to link it up or to find those identifiers for the supercharge.info data. I have already done the technical work or the coding, so you will for you, but I will just explain you how this works. Supercharge.info has a URL called /service supercharge all sites, where you get all the data they have on all the superchargers as one big data file. So here it doesn't look like much, but if you open it in another editor, you can see it's nicely ordered that in this supercharger in South Korea, I have that ID, that's the one that I'm looking for. I have another name for it, and I have the longer name that was the exact one that I'm looking for to match on. So what I've done for you already in this Google Sheet that you can just copy and then use for yourself is that right now on this date, June 18th, I've loaded it in there with a very handy tool I found on the internet called Import JSON. So that's like an add-on for Google Sheets, and that will immediately turn JSON data like this one into a spreadsheet. Just because, shout out to this business who created it, just to tell you how cool it actually is that you just have a very simple formula. You tell it which fields you need. I want the name, I want the location ID, and I want the ID. And then I have one formula that says import JSON. I just give the URL on where the data lives on the internet, and I say A2 to C2, like the data points that I want, and boom, it just extracts it very, very cleanly. So then the last step is that we build that format that we need for Super Check-in. So just as a reminder, we need the date and the time, not without the minutes and everything. We need a comment if we want, and then we need that site ID. That's what we need. So this is created by, first of all, the date and time. There's a little formula that just parses off the seconds and the time zone. We don't need. The comment column is empty. You can enter that if you want. And then the site ID is nothing more than a lookup of, in my Tesla export sheet for this time, I look for example, Brugge, Belgium. I look for that in the supercharge.info data. Like if I look here, Brugge, it's like here. And then it says, okay, if I found Brugge, give me the ID that he's here on this line. So that's indeed how most of it gets filled out. And then here it's possible that you have to do a few things manually. Like for example, it says, I cannot find Blankenfelde Malo in Germany. Strange, because this still exists. So if I just look here, and if I look for Blankenfelde, I indeed see it. Like now, the latest supercharge.info data says that it's Blankenfelde, Germany. But indeed, in that export that I received from the Tesla site itself, if I look there for Blankenfelde, I see here that it's called Blankenfelde Malo, Germany. So yeah. So that's a little bit, I mean, you might need to do this for a couple of superchargers, but at least, I mean, if you know your way a little bit out of Google, in Google Sheets, I realize this might not be a second nature to many people, but it should really be just half an hour or maybe an hour job, or maybe even shorter, to get your CSV together and then to upload all of your history immediately in Super Check-in, and then get all of your badges, your check-ins there. This was made for the Tesla Motors Club forum community, who gave me a lot of ideas or insights for this, but of course anybody else who sees this is happy to use it. And I hope Super Check-in enables you to do more road trips and fly less, because flying less, using less fossil fuels, we really need to do it now to have a sustainable future for everybody. Thank you very much.